Aren't you sick of hearing mindset advice? Especially as an artist that just wants to get a little better. So why is everybody always on about this topic? Well, I'll blame you for feeling annoyed. And while you watch me draw this today, let's critically examine this and figure out, is this all just fluff and nonsense? Or is there something to this topic? So here's the biggest problem that I noticed with this topic is that first and foremost, whenever anybody mentions mindset, there's such a contrast in reactions to it because half the people glaze over. I can literally feel the eyes roll back into your head. And then the other half will probably really intently listen. And there's probably some part of you that might just be a little curious. Is this person onto it? But I do tend to notice that there's a decent amount of people that just get really turned off by this advice whenever anybody brings up the word mindset. And then there's also a lot of mystique around it that honestly, a lot of people can't latch on to as far as why does this matter? Because for you as an artist, it's real basic and simple. You want to get better. Maybe you want to start an art business. Maybe you want to go ahead and get more clients, or you want to increase your pricing. And you're like, that's just what I need. But is it really just that simple? And so even me, I approach this topic all the time. And I want to thank the commenter that said that my advice, that mindset is out of touch advice. I want to thank them because it literally sent me down the rabbit hole of really thinking this through, because I wanted to go ahead and give you a different view on this than I think that you've ever gotten before. And so throughout this video, here's what I want us to consider is that first off, why is there such opposition to this topic? Why would just approaching things and believing things differently than you currently are? Why would that be a bad thing? Why can that cause such controversy? And are you looking for proof? Are you looking for examples of why mindset might be a particularly important thing for you to focus on alongside your art? Or here's another bigger topic. What if this is the number one thing holding back your art too? And just in case you've never met me before, my name is Dr. Sean Bianchi, and welcome to the Art Mentor. Because alongside that, I also want you to please consider this. Is it that maybe this topic hasn't been approached with you in a way that allowed you to understand why this is such a big deal and it honestly matters more than your art? Crazy, right? Let's figure it out. So first off, if we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna critique mindset, you probably should understand exactly what it is at its core. And just to represent the entire concern with you, mindset is essentially like a computer operating system, okay? Basically, everything that you do runs in accordance to how that programming is. And here's just a thought I want to give you. Most of your programming isn't your own. You are not the engineer that developed it. It is put onto us. It is put into us. And oftentimes, we don't even know where it came from. And just a fun fact for you via psychology here is that honestly, most of your thoughts are not even your own. You're just repeating and modeling attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors that you've seen from other people in your life, or there have been trauma responses to things that have happened to you in your life that you don't even want nor desire. And so when people have a knee-jerk reaction, when they have a triggered response at an even greater level than that, okay? Why does that happen? Because of the fact that it opposes our software. We can't compute what's going on. And so that's also why it's important to consider it. Now let's talk about what mindset is not. A mindset is not some type of magical quick fix. It's not an intense hack. It's not going to be the solution to everything. And so I'm gonna go through a bunch of examples in this video just to get some hard proof to this pudding that just seems like this really floppy, unspecific topic. I want to lay down a groundwork for you to understand why the number one most limiting factor in your life is not your artwork or your skill, but it is indeed your thought patterns. Because a lot of us haven't upgraded our system as a human being since maybe the time that we were in high school or earlier. And the hardest thing for you to do is to volunteer to upgrade yourself, because at its core, what a mindset does is it forces you to tread upon the holiest grail of human territory. It's the way that you think. And so you might be like, all right, doc, well, whatever. I need some examples. What you got? All right, here they come. Let's rock into some less fluffy examples and reasoning why. Have you ever heard the old adage that I'm just doing my best. How you doing? Oh, I'm doing my best. I'm surviving. Well, what if I said that's true? You are doing your best. Absolutely. Like, no doubt about it. I'm never throwing shade at anybody on this topic. But you are doing your best, but you're also not doing your best. And so the first reason why artists oppose any type of mindset advice is because it is always easier for you to assume that you are currently right now going to be doing your best. And what I mean by that, it's not a diss to you. And again, I'm not disrespecting you, but your best is always relative to your point in time right now and what you seek to do. And so just to give you some examples of how this works really well. So for example, like in my mentorship, a lot of times people will say like, well, Sean, I don't have any time for art, or I only have this much time for art. And I'll give them the task of like, okay, hey, do me a favor, track your time this week. I want to know exactly, like, aside from non-essential duties, where is your time going? And how much art are you making? And how much time are you using for that? And then they'll come back to me and we'll find one of two things, which is either that, wow, I actually do have more time than I thought, or, oh, I didn't realize over the course of a week I had been doing all of this amount of time and this amount of art. Here's another version of this too. Let's talk about your art process versus using new techniques, because your art process and how you're producing art, it will always be relative to what you currently know and the way that you currently think. And that's why sometimes when I show people like a new technique or a different approach, they'll be like, wow, that seems so much easier. Now your best has been upgraded. And so here's some foundational advice that I want to give you on this. When we talk about your best, what we're talking about is a matter of effort. And what effort equals is the extent of what you know right now, the extent of the application of what is known now, and your confirmation of its result as known. And so what mindset offers on that note is not to make you feel bad, but it is to open your mind to what is beyond. And that's scary because your brain doesn't like that. And so what mindset is not, it's not gonna like magically transform your best. It's not putting you down and telling you you're worthless. But what it does is develop an awareness in you for what you need to start, what you need to stop, and what you need to continue in order to begin to ascend to your actual peak. Not just assume that what you're doing right now is the best it's ever gonna get. Next, it's also easier to just discount the fact that your money is driven by your mindset more than it is actual socioeconomics. And if that scares you, y'all, please take my hand and let's take a walk through this. The first thing that you have to do is kind of consider for yourself, like, are you even worthy of getting it? Are you worthy of getting more? Are you actually opening up yourself to the possibility that there could be a greater degree of wealth and comfort for you than what you currently have and are experiencing right now, or lack thereof? So I work with and I talk with a lot of artists about this very topic, about their perceived cap for what they believe that they can or they can't earn. And a lot of times artists will say, well, Sean, I can only earn this much because I live here, because I can only earn this much because this is all I've ever gotten, or this is the most I can ever get because I've only ever gotten my family and friends to commission me. I can't ever hope to earn any degree of money beyond this point or make this consistent for me. And so what that exposes is the fact that, again, your mindset around this topic opposes your OS, and it just can't compute it. See, also, what people don't realize around this topic is that they will purposely sabotage themselves from trying to achieve more. Not to say that money is everything, but it's not. But they will deliberately put obstacles in their way and derail really great progress because of what their false beliefs are, again, that they don't even understand. And we'll talk more about what you perceive to be right and not right in a minute. But here's another goodie. Have you ever heard the saying, well, money doesn't grow on trees? Well, if that's the case, can somebody please say that to everybody that's investing into AI development with literally the most unsubstantiated return in human history, and there's no money being made on it? Money is actually far more abundant than we think, but we'll talk about poverty mindsets in a minute. And so, will mindset give you more money. No, it is not going to automatically make you look at your bank account app and be like, wow, look at how rich I am. But it is going to open the door to you wondering how. And again, just to provide you with a hard example for this one. So many times that people come to work with me in my mentorship, which by the way, if you want to learn more about, there's a link down below in the description of the video as always. And they'll say like, Sean, I just need to learn, where do I post this? And where do I put this? And how do I do this and strategize and market better? And 100% of the time, that is not the case. I wish I could say to everybody that I work with, just post here and do that thing. And that's what is different about my program versus every other one, is because I literally address the mindset as a core topic. And that's really what drives the difference along with the art. And you know what? People that have been with it will tell you that's kind of what makes the biggest difference in their life. So how is your mindset around money, healthy or unhealthy? Moving on. I bet that you probably have been through hard circumstances. I bet right now that you could probably name some of the hardest circumstances that you're currently experiencing and going through. And the other reason why I think a lot of artists are turned off the mindset is because it's easier to oppose ownership. And just to be clear, I think a lot of people misunderstand that topic in and of itself along with this too. And so it's like a nasty cocktail. Let me just explain. Ownership is not saying that everything was 100% on you. It may not have been you that actually put themselves in that situation. But when you can actually sit down and say, everything that's happening might not be my fault, but it is my responsibility, a whole world of potential opens up. And so for myself personally, just to give you some examples, because I don't want you to think that I'm like some super privileged person telling you this. I'm really not, all right? Listen, both my parents are like the black sheep of their respective families, and both of them were really underachieving people that didn't provide a good life. Both my parents split when I was 6 months old. That's not my fault that that happened, and I wish I had grown up in a more nuclear family that would have been much healthier for me. It's not my fault that when I was growing up, my mother was in and out of mental hospitals for 6 years and I didn't have a solid, consistent place to live for honestly more than a week or sometimes a couple days. I was literally bounced around to friends' houses and family member houses for 6 years of my life. It's not my fault that I didn't have money to go to college and I had to take the same route that everybody else did. It wasn't my fault that during COVID I lost a part-time job that I had. None of those things were my fault. And so in that same vein of thought though, life became my responsibility. This topic brings up is that you understand that you didn't put yourself into that position intentionally. You would never do that. But life threw you a curveball. And because of that, we have to understand this, that it is always easier to blame rather than ask, what can I do more? How can I handle this differently? Or more importantly, what can I learn from this? And so mindset, it's not a solution and it's not a fix for the problem. But it is your first step towards handling all problems that come your way. The next reason artists oppose this is because right now in your life, whether or not you acknowledge it, your brain does. There is comfort to how you're currently existing. And the reason why is because the way you're doing things as it is equals safety and the possibility of more, because that is the root in the seed of doubt. It is always easier to accept what is than what could be. And so just to give you a few examples of this one, throughout my channel, you will find very different tactics for how to get clients, for how to grow a business, for how you should market yourself, than what you will perceivably find everywhere. And so what you will find everybody else doing is doing this and doing that. And here I am trying to say, hey, I think that you should try this instead because your returns will be so much better. And it's so much easier to just accept the way that you're currently doing it and seeing people you know do it, which we'll talk about in a minute, and just go with that because you're comfortable with what you're doing. And again, furthering that, it's not that easy for you to accept that using a commission sheet is trash advice and a trash tactic, or that you should talk to a client before you ever put out a price, or that you could maybe price your art a little bit higher than what a McDonald's value meal is worth. And it's not like these are actually scary things. It's just biologically ingrained into us to look at anything that's counter to the narrative that we have learned and accepted. Again, that programming comes into play. Been programmed, whether or not by choice or by circumstance, it's been installed into us. And it views everything that's not in alliance with that as a threat. And so does mindset help you accept things better? No. But what it does is it will help you be aware of what most will overlook. Now, just to bring up this heavy topic, okay? The reason why I think, again, a lot of people will oppose considering that the way that you think about something, your attitude, your belief system, is going to heavily come up and butt against this. How do you view the virtues of somebody who is looking for more? And so here's what I want to give you as a few popular examples of this one, okay? You're most likely going to think that somebody who's evil equals privileged and immoral, and somebody who is average as being more humble and altruistic. Like, here's a classic example. Think about the Superman universe. Think about Lex Luthor. What do you imagine? You imagine him as he's depicted as being rich, having way more than any single person on earth would ever need. And so because of that, he's super privileged, he's dishonest, he's disloyal, he's selfish, and he's literally the epitome of evil and immorality, right? Whereas Superman, humble beginnings, little farm boy that, yes, although from Krypton, grew up in just the most humble Nowheresville place. Like, it's literally called Smallsville for a reason. And that makes you drawn to them because of the fact that he didn't have much. And what this exposes, and what we've been taught, and I'll give you a couple other examples, is that it is easier for you to just demonize having more. And so right now you might be thinking that trying to get more power, or more money, or more possibilities, or more comfort for yourself, it's going to put you down the path of the unrighteous, right? And so just to give you other couple examples from this, well, you might be like, well, Sean, not all rich characters are evil. Look at Batman and look at Iron Man. Yes, but what's important about them? They have no superpowers, okay? And just to be honest, Batman is just a villain that chose a more righteous path. Like, when you really get into it, he actually kind of likes what he does. And then when you take a look at Iron Man, perfect example. He's cocky, he's arrogant, he's selfish. They have these innate character flaws. And again, we are taught subconsciously that you chasing more is going to put you down a more immoral path. And so what does this do? It paints this picture of you having and attaining more as you becoming more heinous. But again, like, how many people do you know that are like filthy rich or like crazy successful? Like, you actually know. Because you might be like, oh, well, look at Ross Draws over here and he's not paying his assistant, and look at this person up over here that has all this controversy. It's like, I don't speak about those people because I don't know them either. And it's because of that, it's so easy for us, because they get the spotlight because they have more, to demonize them without knowing them. Are some of those things true? Yes. But here's also a fact too. There's plenty of immorality on the side of people that are rich, and there's plenty of depravity for the people that have absolutely nothing and are humble and are just average people. So is money the fault, or are the people the fault? And so a big thing that I usually have to work with people on when they're trying to attain more in their life is realizing that more isn't greed, and it's not trying to fill an insecurity. It is helping you realize your nature so that you can give back to the people that matter most in your life. But you've never heard it that way, have you? Next, let's advance that topic. Beyond just villainizing somebody, because that's easy too, it's also easier for you to go ahead and write off and wholly overlook somebody. And so it's so much easier for you to just write off what somebody has done before they got what they currently have. And so you might be like, well, it was easy for them, must be nice, they were rich, they were lucky, or they did it first, or it was just good timing. And so what I want you to realize about this is that success is literally like the tip of the iceberg. And what that discounts is literally the floating mountain underneath it of everything that happened that nobody paid attention to, they didn't get a grand celebration of, they didn't get any type of applause for either. It is so much unrecognized effort. And that's where most people quit, is because they feel like they need a party every single time they show up. Now, is there truth to some of that? Yes, but it's such a scarce amount of circumstances that that's true. And just to provide some alternative versions of this one, you might even look at me and be like, okay, yeah, Sean, well, you have this YouTube channel and you're also a doctor and you've also got an art business and you've also got a community for yourself. Yes, all of that is true. However, though, what you don't see is anything that I did in order to do that. You don't see the thousands of hours I've done with my art. You don't see the hundreds of hours I've made shooting these videos, editing them, and reshooting the ones that I didn't like how they came out. You don't see all of the hundreds of times that I failed to hook a client to try and get a commission. You don't see, although I talk about it all the time, the amount of times I've gotten to know I don't want to pay you that amount. You don't see any of that. And so your mindset is always looking for clues. It's looking for evidence. And success does leave clues. But on the other end of that, here's your greatest guru in life, is that failure will teach you, and not just failure in the greatest sense, but just mistakes, will teach you far more than success ever will. And so does mindset allow you to be lucky? Does it allow you to instantly achieve more? No, it does not. But it does reveal the flaws in your considerations. And so what your mindset does is it helps you ask yourself, what could you do? And what are you fighting as well? And most importantly too, your mindset helps you figure out how to stop obscuring your starting line, because your starting line, no matter where you are in life or how old you are or how much success you have had or haven't had, your starting line is right now. Now I think we're ready to go ahead at this point and approach this topic on this issue, which is that at all times, you are having an internal struggle. You're having a struggle of two different versions of yourself. And that is the struggle of your highest self versus your lowest self. And what you want to realize is that it is always easier for you to lose that internal struggle. And when I say lowest self, by the way, I don't mean that you're a loser. I don't mean that you're a bad person. This is not a personal attack. I just mean that usually what you want to be, where you want to be in life, it's not like it should make you unhappy, but you also realize that you could attain more. Like, I remember this for me very vividly, because it was about 5 years ago, because I've been working on my mindset for 5 years at this point, like really seriously. And I was at this point where, like my youngest son, he was on the way. I had a 5-year-old. I was married and I was sole provider for my household, shifting from being a dual provider when my wife left her job to raise our children, when we moved down to where we are now. And I kind of realized, like, okay, based on everything I've done in my life right now, I feel like this is all I know how to do. And I started to search and wander around like I'm talking to you about today and just said, how do I do more? I know I'm capable of more, but how do I get there? And this is what life pointed me in the direction of and said, you got to work on this, Sean. And I said, okay. And again, we're always fighting a battle at all moments in time between our highest and lowest self. Do I eat like crap or do I eat healthy today? Do I exercise or do I just lazy around all day? Do I start my art business or not? Do I draw today? Do I scroll today? And listen, I'm not like an innately brave or confident person. I have the same fear and doubt that you have. I had doubts about starting my channel. I had extreme doubts about whether or not I would ever become a successful freelancer. I had so many doubts over like when I started my mentorship and why would anybody want to work with me when you have all of these great titans out there and then programs and classes too. I had so much fear and insecurity around those things. And here's the greatest realization that I've come to. You need to lead in your life with possibility. What might happen? What could exist? How could this help not just you, but you could bring up the people around you? So for me, I thought, how will this enrich the lives of my family? How will this make their lives better? How can I give to my children what they never got? How can I model as a man for them what my parents could not? And so does a mindset heal you? No, it does not. But instead, what it does is it drives the engine of possibility. And it asks you to currently either dismiss or invite those possibilities, because your current mindset defaults to your current programming. Next, A big reason why I think a lot of artists really don't like to talk a lot about mindset and why this kind of ruffles some feathers is because it also gives way to the most convenient excuses. And I'm talking about where you currently are within your environment here. So where you live, who you're around, what you're born into, what you're currently fitting into. And the big thing that I want to put out there for you is that artists are divergent thinkers. That's how we are. And we have an innate desire to want to fit in biologically speaking. And because of that, it's always easier for you to want to give into your environment rather than oppose it. And so to that extent, your environment, for you to realize, is that it is your worst teacher and your best teacher. Myself personally, my parents were the best example for me. And my teachers of art were honestly some of my best examples because they were terrible. I had a lot of terrible experiences with a lot of people. And I could default back to that and just be like, oh man, I'm just so damned in life. I'm screwed here. But I started to realize around the time that I was a teen, in my late teens, that you know what? They served a purpose for me. They showed me what I don't want to be. And a lot of times you think that you can only grow in the presence of really amazing people. But honestly, in the worst people, you also have a fantastic reference to say, never gonna be like that. Like my parents taught me what I don't want to do, what I don't want to come home and act like, what I don't want to model for my family, what I don't want to be as a spouse too, obviously, because they divorced. And then my art teachers growing up, I had some good ones, I had some really awful ones. The good ones inspired me to go ahead and continue practices and enrich them for my own students. And then the terrible ones showed me, hey, this doesn't work and this is why people don't want to pursue art. And that was a big foundational reason why I chose to go and be a doctor of art and why I chose my dissertation topic. And so what your mindset does, it doesn't teach you to hate people. It doesn't teach you to loathe your circumstance. It doesn't mean that you can't love the people in your life. But what it helps you understand is how to safeguard the most important environment, your internal one right here. Because nothing can replace this, but you can poison it really easily. Moving on, here's a big topic for you to also consider. A lot of times people want more, they want success, they don't know the road, they can't see the path, it's obscured, it's covered in trees and leaves, and it's completely forested over. Nobody can see this clear path. But have you ever considered too, that the reason why artists might not want to hear mindset advice is because they have a fear of being successful? I know that might seem crazy because you probably want to do something. You want to get more. You want to be a better artist, or you want to achieve something really cool. You want to make that manga. You want to make that game that you've always been talking about, right? Your mindset kind of tells you if you can or you cannot. And I've done this too as well, like when building the things that I have. Like I thought to myself, like, well, why would anybody want to watch my YouTube channel? I'm not like a gorgeous young girl. I'm not a hot young thing. Like I'm not the most gorgeous guy out here, okay? Unless you think so, and if so, thank you. And what your mindset will do is it will help you understand that it's not written in the fabric of the universe. Nothing is certain. Nothing is concrete. And that's why too, I've also run into this trouble with helping me understand how do I re-energize a dying art career, or how would I approach something when my passion, my interests start to wane and I think that I can't do this anymore? Well, to tell you exactly how you'd handle that, I made an entire video for you right here, so go ahead and go check that out. And hey, if this helped you, please share with someone that you know. Thanks so much and see you next time.